Staying up to date, staying informed on cybersecurity news, threat intelligence, daily events. This is absolutely critical to being a highly successful cybersecurity practitioner. In this week's episode, I'm going to provide you 5 different feeds on where you can get cybersecurity news, knowledge, and threat intelligence, but I'm also going to qualify each of them on what type of analyst or what type of engineer, what's the audience that might be best suited for each of these feeds, and also I'll include what I do every single weekday for my daily threat intelligence briefing. All right, let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So a couple weeks ago, I did a video on 5 mistakes that people are making breaking into cybersecurity and what they need to do to fix it. The third item was not staying up to date on cybersecurity threat intelligence and kind of current news and events. I wanted to make this video to go a little bit deeper and actually give you actionable opportunity to address that shortcoming if you're not getting, daily or weekly feeds, and really wanted to curate the list because I know these options right here, and just Googling cybersecurity news, you can kind of get a mixed bag. So let's just jump right into it. Again, I'm going to provide you both with the actual feed and then what I think a good audience would be for this and how you might be able to take advantage of it for yourself. If you're new here and we haven't met, my name is Jerry Ozier. This is Simply Cyber. It's a YouTube channel designed to help you make and take a cybersecurity career further, faster. And we do career stuff just like this, and we do labs and we interview experts. So if that's something that's interesting to you, hit subscribe. We drop videos every Monday at noon. So now let's get into our list. The first one on our list is a classic oldie but goodie. This is the SANS Daily Information Security Stormcast, right? It's a podcast. You can subscribe to it with your podcast feed of choice, Apple Podcasts, whatever. And it basically drops every single day. They typically will skip on weekends, so it's more like a work week daily podcast. Now this is excellent. This has been going on for like the longest time. This is definitely the first kind of daily feed that I started getting and listening to. They're usually about 5 to 10, like between 5 and 10 minutes long, I would say. I will say, check this out. It is very good, but I want to qualify this, and I'm curious if you listen to the Stormcast, what your thoughts are about this. I really feel like the Stormcast gets a little bit deeper on the technical pieces than some other feeds and news outlets and stuff like that. So I really feel like it's more either engineer kind of focused audience or, a smaller organization's, CISO or smaller organization's director of IT, InfoSec who might be more hands-on than necessarily kind of a CISO at a larger organization who's going to be doing more strategic level stuff. You can see here, the date's July 11th right now. You can see, Amazon Echo Dot Forensics, RPM key issues, Node.js, right? So it's a lot of technical engineering stuff. It's all excellent. You can see they did something on the Casilla ransomware event, which was a big story that just happened. So check out the Daily Information Security Podcast. I will put a link in the show description below to all 5 of these if you'd like. I ended up getting away from this one for our number 2 option. So number 2 is the CISO series cybersecurity headlines. Again, you can get it on all your major podcast outlets. Now, I want to point out the CISO series has a couple different podcasts, really 3, right? They have one for kind of CISO vendor, one for defense in depth, which I believe was their original one. And these are more longer format, conversational interview type things. But the cybersecurity headlines one is awesome. Now, I want to tell you, this is my daily feed, right? So the cybersecurity headlines, I used to do the Stormcast. Now I do this one. It's about, I'd say, 5 to 6 minutes long. They typically do 4 to 5 current news stories. And what I love about this is, in my role, I run my own cyber program. In my role, I kind of need objective information, which is what they're delivering. And I need it kind of concise and to the point so I can do something actionable with it when I get to work later that day. So for me, I will brew a cup of coffee, wake up, coffee, throw on the security headlines. They usually post it either the night before or super, super early in the morning. So for most people who are in the United States, by the time you're getting ready for work, you will be able to get that day's briefing as far as I'm concerned. And like I said, it's probably 5 to 7 minutes long. They do about 5 stories, and the reporting is thorough enough to be informative and objective. So there's not really any agenda. There's no kind of vendor bend to it. There's usually a 15-second commercial right in the middle of it, which is, it's not a big deal. I mean, if you really want to skip it, you can, but it's very unintrusive. They've been doing this for a little while. David Sparks is kind of the leader over CISO series, but they have a different speaker each day. I strongly encourage you check this out. I have been listening to this for probably 6 to 12 months, and it's fantastic. I absolutely love it. All right, so our third option is Black Hills InfoSec, talking about news. Now, what's really interesting about this one is they really only do these stories when there's noteworthy and newsworthy stories in the cybersecurity industry. Like, for example, I bet you, without looking, this July 6th one is the Cassia ransomware. This 628 might be Print Nightmare. So like Colonial Pipeline was probably one of these early May ones. So you get the idea, right? So what's really cool about this is the other ones are more like daily threat briefings. Here's the top news stories you need to know, kind of like your you get the folder in the morning and here's what you got to do. This one is much more kind of subjective analysis from, seasoned senior information security practitioners. Oftentimes there's actionable intel that comes out of these talks. So it definitely has a different feel, a different blend. And this one is excellent for really all levels of practitioner, not just levels of practitioner, but also kind of scope of responsibility, right? So analysts might be able to use this, risk analysts might be able to use this to like inform their threat assessment on how bad a certain risk is, like when they're qualifying it or quantifying it. And an engineer or a SOC analyst might be able to take some type of IOC or, just kind of understand a better way to implement their environment to protect against whatever it is that they're talking about. So great work by the Black Hills people. It's just yet another thing that they are doing that's so good for the community. Okay, so let's move on to our fourth option. Our fourth option is Cyberwire Daily. Now, this one is a daily, right? Probably weekdays only. I'm not very, very familiar with this. As I mentioned, I'll put the links in the description below. But what's interesting about this one is you can see they also pick a few stories, but the length of these shows is much longer, and they go into greater level of detail, right? So you could see, what is this? Yeah, this is like 30 minutes long, and it's all good stuff. They pick a couple different stories. They go deep. There is some more kind of, analysis, insight provided. So it really depends on what you have time for and what your interest level is. Again, the security headlines in the Stormcast are much like tightly packed. Here's 5 things that you need to know about today and whether or not it affects you. Talking about news is more subjective, like you're talking to other practitioners about a topic. This one is longer form. If you've got like a nice 30-minute commute every morning, that could be a perfect place for it. But you're going to get a bit more context, a bit more understanding. And if you're relatively new to the industry, this is a pretty good option because it gives you some more of like kind of the explanation and understanding of how these things are situated with each other. Whereas the short form dailies that I mentioned before that I take, it's more about just like, here's what you need to know and here's what it is. And then we can go off and do something actionable about it, but definitely worth checking out. Now, the fifth option is a great one. It's one of my longtime favorites, although I don't ingest it as much as I used to. But Hack5 actually hosts a podcast called Threatwire, and it is hosted by Shannon Morris, who's a longtime a media member and contributor practitioner to the cybersecurity community. She's absolutely fantastic. But she does this Threatwire thing. It is a once a week item, so the level of commitment is lower, but you will be missing a couple things. Now, what's interesting is she will always post about 3 stories, and it'll typically be like the 3 biggest stories. So you can see Shannon, like she delivers it, really high quality, good content. presented by Hack5, obviously. She'll cover those 3 stories and give you a bit of an explanation behind exactly, what you need to know about it. So this one is a nice blend between kind of high-level objectives if you're more like on the GRC side or on the leadership side, and you kind of need to know like what is this thing about. But she'll go a little bit deeper, and she also provides some of her own opinions and thoughts around the particular news stories and how serious or how not serious some of these issues might be. But because she only picks 3 items, they're typically quite serious and things that you really should need to know. So if you don't have the time to commit to a daily, perhaps Threatwire is a good weekly for you in general. So those are my 5 picks. When you do lists like these, there's all sorts of ones that kind of get pushed to the side. Put it in the comments below. Where do you get your daily or weekly cyber threat briefing? Do you think daily's too much? Is that too much of your time commitment? Have you tried any of these and found them to not be good? I'm really interested. Put them in the comments. Obviously we're trying to share and grow the community all together. So I definitely would appreciate knowing if there's one out there that I don't know about that is super sick. So, get in there, get going. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.